I'm Dave Marsh, the Spy Guy, and this is my review of the show Tribes of Europa. I haven't done a movie, anything in like 2 months. I've been on other people's channels talking like on Nerd Report or on Planet of the Nerds, but I haven't really been doing anything on my own channel because frankly, I've been freaking depressed over a lot of different things that have been going on. My girlfriend has disappeared on me, which happens from time to time. And I had a big fight with a whole bunch of my friends who don't want to talk to me. And there's been some other drama, and I'm just also trying to get back to work and all sorts of other things that have been happening with me. And it's kind of made me like, do I want to go out and like make a video and talk about all that stuff? Not really. And or even just like make any content of my own in this kind of situation. But people keep subscribing because they see me on something else and they're like, hey, let's go support him. And I'm like, okay, well, if people are subscribing, I should definitely make some content for you. So who I've had, I try to announce my subscribers. Oh, wow, that's gonna be nice. Something come up. Oops. Sorry, I'm trying to look up people who have recently subscribed, and nothing wants to tell me, even though, hey, where is this? What? Gmail is being a real pain today. Anyways, someone, Jeb or something like that. Yeah, there's been a few people subscribing lately, and I wanted to put thank you for subscribing, but Gmail is being weird. It's partially because I've been like, I maxed out my Gmail account, and it does happen. You get to your 15 gigs worth of data, and you're like, oh, and Gmail's like, hey, you can pay us $2 a month for another 85 gigs. I'm like, I just don't feel like paying another program another few dollars a month that I'm not getting really any use out of. And now I want to go and do something else. And I have a bunch of subscriptions on everything that I need to get rid of. I just got rid of my Adobe subscription. I thought I was going to be using that a lot more when I started doing this. And of course, I never ended up using it for anything. Anyways, want to talk a little bit about this show. It showed up on Netflix. It's called Tribes of Europa. And I don't know if a few years ago, if anyone remembers a TV show called Revolution. Revolution is a science fiction show set after like one day all the power in the world stops working, and it does it, and people, it's set 20 years later, and the people who were like, or 10, 15 years later, and they're trying to figure out why the world, there's the overall mystery of why the world's happened the way it happened. And people have built new kingdoms and empires, and characters go off on the hero's journey to discover what's happened and reconnect with find their lost relatives, and different people are doing different things. And that show was good on the character side of things. Some of the world building was okay, but frankly, when you find out what really happened, you're like, that's not how that works. It's not how science works. Like in that show, I'm going to be a bit of a spoiler here for people who have watched. Basically, the U.S. government releases these nanites around the world. They activate one day, just a test program, and it shuts down the planet. And there's a few places you can go that can create technology, like suppression fields that allow technology to work again. And of course, people turn on the suppression field, and suddenly their iPhone plays for the first time in 20 years. And it's like, that thing doesn't last that long. But the problem with a lot of that show is that it's like you are a giant network television show, and you can't hire a science advisor to explain to you that if you block out all electrical transmissions around the world, diesel engines would still work. Like, seriously, it's like, come up with a more, just hire a scientist. You're like ABC. I can't remember the network that went on this, but you have tens of millions of dollars to spend on a TV show, but you can't be bothered to spend any money on a technical advisor that can tell you what's going on. Meanwhile, we have Tribes of Europa, which is set in the far off year of originally, let me see here, pulled it up on Wikipedia. Set in 2073-74. That doesn't sound exactly right to me, given some of the other ages, but it's certainly like it's like 2029 or 2039 when the world stops working, and various like all technology, there was a global blackout, technology, like a global EMP level effect goes off, but technology can work again. People have hardened bunkers, people who know how to rebuild things are rebuilding certain scientific technology, and it's unclear exactly what's happened, but we start the show off with a family living in in a tribe in the German wilderness. And we quickly determine there are like still advanced technologies. Like one of their uncles has a robotic arm, right? So you can maintain technology and there's trade, but the world went through the predicted die-off. What would happen when such a calamity would happen. I'm someone who's been very interested in post-apocalypse stuff going back to the early 2000s, or sorry, the 1990s. I bought pretty much everything for a role-playing game called Twilight 2000 that was published at that time. I've studied other things. I've been very interested in like science fiction apocalypse. When I was a high school kid, growing up in the like West Carleton library system, which was a high school, there was some books there, but a lot of them were in post-apocalyptic science fiction novels. People in the Cold War were thinking about all that stuff, so I read a lot of books set in short stories set in that time period. So I'm a bit more familiar with this thing, and I've been interested in this particular genre for a long time. And I guess with zombies, of course, everyone goes with that being the apocalypse now, but back in the day, nuclear war was the big one. So in Tribes of Europa, we've had this apocalypse happen. There was a predicted die-off, as like we live in a world with a just-in-time inventory system where everyone is 3 days from starvation. That's a real reality. I worked in the grocery business for 20 years. I know. So there's a predicted die-off, but we don't want to go through all that. So we start the show, and it's 20 years after the apocalypse. So it's Wikipedia says 2074, but it seems more like maybe off by like 5 or 10 years. Just way people are. You have met people who were like little kids when the apocalypse happened. So it seems to be a bit different. Why did the apocalypse happen is, of course, one of the ideas that's constantly going throughout the series. But these kids are all living in this tribal zone, which is like with a handful of technology, but they call themselves the Origines, and the Origines are like, we stay off the grid. We try not to trade with anyone. We don't want to. We have a limit. Sorry, they had a limited trade with one town, but they don't want to. Like, they know about the outside world, but everyone stays safe by staying off the grid. And they have like. Over here, you can see them. Those are the kind of houses they live in. And over here, so you can see a truck there. That's one of the trucks that's driven around. And a lot of matte paintings, or like the equivalent of matte paintings with the technology, are showing the cities that exist now. At one point, people talk about Berlin as it's the most populous city on the continent with 80,000 people, and we, of course, would think that's a small number. So the show starts off with this thing, but what happens is there is a airplane crashes in the forest. Some people see it happening, and they break the rules to go explore off and find the pilot of this plane and what's happened with it. The thing is, the plane's from something called Atlanteans, and they have technology that's far in advance of anything else people have. So they have, like, at one point they talk about it's got a plasma cannon, it's got an ion drive, it doesn't work like conventional airplanes or trains. It's like way more advanced than anything else. And it's been shot down by a group called the Crows. The Crows are... it's not exactly explained why these people have come about in the way, but it seems that the crows come out of Germany, and they are a I'm going to guess that they're meant to be descended from like gothic gangs that and punk gangs that ended up taking over the city after the die off, because they had this very established code. They listen to a lot of death metal. They dress up like they were from that kind of thing. So you get the feeling that the gang, these street gangs that would have been around, took over the city and now have a base civilization society. And that's one of the reasons why I like this show, is that they are thinking things through at a certain level in a way that revolutions did not. They like people continue to progress culturally, versus revolutions where it's just kind of like there's one dictator over here and there's kind of a republic over there, and nuclear weapons still operate after 20 years of no use. So that's that, and there's people behaving weirdly in different ways, and like, sorry, that show was so interesting and so dumb at the same time. It really bothers me. But so this show is thinking things through a bit more. And so the family, there's two boys and a girl, and they each go off on go to explore the pilot, get the pilot back. They go back to town, and through a series of situations, each one of the children ends up in a separate group. And I'm going to get into a little bit more spoiler territory because I'm reviewing the series now instead of just talking about that. So if you don't want spoilers, stop listening to this for a little while. And I'll give you my rating on the show. I think it's an 8 out of 10 or 80 out of 10, 100. That's usually how I did this, just because sometimes I don't like something and I want to say it's a 4 out of 100. You know what show you were. Anyways, so from now on, I'll get in more spoiler territory. So the three kids, basically, they track down the pilot. One of the kids tracks down the pilot. They all bring the pilot back to the village. They start to heal it. The crows show up demanding the pilot. And the pilot also has this thing here behind me, which is the insides of a cube. And the cube allows the Atlanteans, it's kind of like their interface with a lot of technology, and it does various different things. And without the central cube, you can actually access their tech. So, and everyone wants their tech because it's so much better than anyone else, and it's could change the continent. So the three children bring back the person. The crows show up. The crows kind of have like this weird honor code society, very much like they're kind of Klingonish in the sense that, you know, they're treacherous to a fault, but they give you their word, they never break it, which comes up later in episodes because other people have no problem using that little thing against them. But they're brutal killing machines. They use drugs. They do all kinds of things. But what's great about the show is that the three children split off, and then we get to see them each dealing with a different faction within this wider world before it all comes back together at the end. Actually, they don't really. We don't see them. Anyways, so one child ends up with the cube. He ends up encountering a trader, and they drive off, and they're trying to sell it and get the technology from it, and, you know, dealing with a world where you get to see this whole like underworld world where things are very Mos Eisley's Katina with the kid, and like the guy's like, sure, I betrayed you, but really you get kind of like a Jack Sparrow kind of vibe from that guy. And they are throughout, there is the speculation of what happened to lead the world. Also, we discovered there is some problem coming from the east, and it may be related to the end of the why the things happen, and it's bad. I don't know what it is yet, but we've seen video footage of it in the show, and I could just say, oh God, I have my speculation on what it is, and maybe in season 2, if we get one, we'll see that. The other child, the older brother of this three, he goes off and he is captured by the crows, and it has to deal with, and we get to see the Crow's society and how it all works, and how this guy is gradually trying to become a Crow himself. That's an option, you got to fight your way to like become a Crow, you kill a Crow or something like that kind of situation. And the final one is, or well, if you watch the show, you'll see what I mean. And the final one is the daughter who is brought in and is captured by the Red Crusaders, a Red faction. I can't remember, but they are the remnants of the old Europa army. That so they seem to be more based on Italy, and the command has fallen to different people over the time, and we get to see their tree. So there's like the three nations, or sorry, it's three different groups that we get to see as we go along this journey. So we get to see how the world develops and get a lot of character development out of this, and an interesting world development. And as we get to the end, and finally in the last scene, well, hey, you should watch it and find out what happens in the last scene. Anyways, like I said, I'm trying to start making some more content around here. I know I always keep saying I'm going to do that, and maybe I just need to do like a weekly show, maybe get a guest come on and we'll do a live stream once a week, and like, just so I have something going on here so we can get some content. I know I've been doing that with my friend Mark, where we do the historian show, which is a little different than what we do everything else here, but that's kind of like something more political, historical. But I like doing that one. I'll have to talk to him about doing another episode. Yeah, so really recommend the show. It's something on Netflix. It's something fun, and it's not, I guess it is German, so watch it in dubbing if that's your thing. It's not complicated like Dark. So Dark, I understand. I watched the first season of Dark. I tried again season 2, and it's just so maybe I need to watch 1, 2, and 3 all as one big row. But there's just so much going on in that show. It's hard to keep track. When you came back, I came back 2 years later, and it's like, where am I? So maybe I have to, like I said, watch all 3 seasons in a row and get through it. But yeah, this is a nice little show. If you like science fiction, like post-apocalyptics, if you like to see kids on heroic journeys, and something to do, because like I said, I was really depressed. I watched this show, I was less depressed. So there you go. That was Tribes of Europa. And if you like this, like, share, subscribe, watch, help me get my hours up. I guess that's it. But this is just kind of like my hobby show. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.